sports photography, you're capturing a moment that looks really cool that will be on somebody's little player card or be in the newspaper.
Mhm.
With the elopement photography, what I'm doing is telling a story. So I tell people always in their intro emails when I do a consultation, yeah, sure, we're going to get some shots that you're going to hang on your wall and you're going to print them up 3 feet by 2 feet and it's going to be gorgeous. But my ultimate goal is for you to look through your album and relive your day.
Right.
And so for me, that means, yeah, I'm paying attention to the couple and photographing them, but I'm also really making sure like those winter berries that we're passing, I've got those. Or, you saw that witch's butter that we passed on the trail. You didn't know what that was, but I knew what witch's butter is because it's my favorite fungi ever. And then I get to tell you about it, and then my photograph, it's going to be in your album. So I would say like Outdoor Chronicles, that's where it comes from, right? Chronicles is telling that story. We happen to be outdoors because me and you and the people I'm photographing, we feel best outside.
The bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
But I think I wore khakis because they had a lot of pockets. I think so.
Why the Catskills is such a great place for trout.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskills.
So I just posted something on Instagram and I got people doing that DM it on this or send me on this thing crap. Do you get that at all?
All the time. Yes.
Sick. I'm sick and tired of it. It's just like promote it on this. So annoying.
Everything's trying to get monetized currently, and I think it's we're past the age of influencers, but there's still an attempt to monetize everything, which just takes away the authenticity of what things like you and I are doing personally.
I agree, and it's just so annoying when I see that. And then I kind of want to do something really bad and see what they will do and be like, get them kicked off somehow. I don't know. I gotta think about that, but
I can't help. I don't know the Instagram strategy.
Neither do I. I gotta figure that out. I just know that people like memes, so I post memes a lot.
Yep, that's true.
And they're hiking memes, so they're adjacent to the show. So how you doing, Molly?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Good. What's the weather like up towards you? Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live outside of Albany. I like to say I live right smack dab in the middle of the Catskills and the Adirondacks, about 45 minutes from Albany or so.
Nice.
And it's snowing. It's sideways right now, but it's definitely a wet, slushy snow. But they say 8 to 10 inches. So
really,
we got something
wow.
here.
That's incredible because like here, I've already got like at least 1, maybe 1.5 inches. But I heard like 3 to 4 inches and some bad ice. But I haven't heard 8 to 10. Wow, you guys are getting.
I know. It's a bizarre line because I was looking at where I wanted to maybe head tomorrow afternoon. And I was like, do I want to break trail or do I want mud? Do I go up? Do I go down?
Right. You do not want mud. I'd rather with this breaking trail would be killer.
It would be killer, but it would be beautiful. So
it would be because if everything's heavy, then everything's sleeting down, and it's that passion, that beautiful hiking winter time.
Exactly, which is my favorite time to hike, and we haven't really had a good winter, so I'm excited to go out in the snow tomorrow.
It's been such an odd winter, very odd. I don't know. So you know what's cool that I heard about? We have elementary schools and high schools and stuff. But have you ever heard of like a backpacking hiking school?
I have not. I'm very intrigued.
Yes. So there's a place called Trailbound Project down in New Jersey. And I know the guys that run it. It's Joe and Scott. There's Joe Galvin and Scott Finnerman. They are both New Jersey Search and Rescue volunteers. And
okay.
Their resumes are huge. I've hung out with them. I've met them before, and they run a hiking backpacking school that teaches you like wilderness first aid, compass, shelter building. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm gonna put them in the show notes. It's just really cool. I gotta admit.
I think that sounds amazing. I mean, like those are the skills that I think will empower so many people, whatever age you are, to to get out there. But there's something just so nice about knowing you're safe, right? When you're heading out and getting those skills early on. That's awesome. That's super, super cool.
Yeah, and I think it's really neat because to be the person who could lead the pack when something goes wrong is really essential to hiking and to being out in the middle of nowhere. Something goes wrong and you're the one that's just like, okay, I can handle this. Sweet. Instead of everybody panicking and running around and, I don't have this, I don't have that. What are we going to do with this? How are we going to keep them warm? When you're prepared for that, it's essential here.
It is essential, and especially with so many more hikers these days. I saw a stat the other day that in the Catskills, the number of people on the trails has more than tripled since 2017. I think
Yep.
it was. So it's not just the pandemic hikes, right? It's just overall more people getting out. And so I agree, having that preparedness. And I have a feeling this will come up a couple times today.
Yes, it will. We got some good stories from you. I can't wait. Can't wait. That also, the percentage wise, so you say I did a podcast earlier with some of my friends who were with me in the 3,500 Club when I was on the board. And I remember seeing stats, and I forgot what years it was. I think it was like 2015 to 2020. There was a 500% increase.
Woof, woof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to know some other places, like I know they keep Book at Overlook. And I remember Charlie, he's one of the greatest volunteers I've ever met in my life. He's just the most humble guy. He's taught me a lot when I was on the board. But he said that they get the thousands of people on the weekends, on good weekends in the Overlook.
I believe it. And this is where I think it's so important for people like you and me and everybody who listens to this podcast to do what we can to help the volunteers and help the DEC to keep those trails in good condition. I do some trail maintenance work. I think you also do some, but just every time I'm out, I see trash, and when we are in those popular places, like just doing a bit, pick up that water bottle that somebody threw out. I know it's gross. Pick up the dog poop bag that somebody like decided to just leave on the side of the trail, because when there are thousands of people, it's so easy to think that somebody's going to clean it up, and likely they're not going to. So this is my plea to say, hey guys, let's all band together and keep these places awfully nice and protect our critters.
Oh yeah. Wow. That is perfect. Speaking of that, picking up trash, you carry like one or two, like, not even garbage bags, just regular plastic bags with you. You can put that stuff into it, and then you can hook it to the outside of your pack, so it's not touching anything in your pack. That's what I used to do, especially when I did Panther Mountain a decent amount of time. I mean, we all know Panther Mountain's one of the most popular spots. I would just pick up the stuff and have my hook it right to one of my hooks in the back, so it never touched anything but the outside of my pack.
I do the same exact thing. I also bring a couple of doggy bags, because if it's something you don't want to touch, a doggy bag is a perfect cheap little, you can use it as a glove, pick it up. So
Correct. Wow. Damn. Talk about influencers here. Jesus, Molly. That's
influence
good.
trail loveliness.
Yes, agreed. Keep the trails beautiful and pristine and like they were when they were first, I can't say first started out because there weren't any trails. So,
Yeah.
so are you involved with the 46ers at all before I ask this next question?
I follow along. I am not an official 46er, but I know a lot of what's going on, in the groups, and have a lot of friends who are official 46ers, part of the nonprofit, as well as, of course, the hikers.
So did you hear about that crazy stuff they asked the Facebook pages to do, where they either like change your name or shut down?
Yeah, the 46ers is a trademarked title. So because the Facebook groups are not led by, sponsored by the official nonprofit, the 46ers, they did ask them to take away that title, which I thought was unfortunate, to be honest, but is what it is.
Yeah, that page, I've done 2 of the 46. It takes a long time for me to drive up there, so time is of the essence. But I found that page very, very helpful. It was called the Adirondack 46ers page or something like that.
Yep.
And the people, the monitoring stuff like that was nothing but amazingly helpful. Like some of the stuff I learned from just the Facebook page was absolutely fantastic and very helpful for my future endeavors in the 46.
Yeah, I think there's so many good Facebook pages. My favorite personally is the Adirondack backcountry hikers, the trail conditions one, because they have a strict rule about no hate speech and no kind of just posting for the sake. It's very strictly trail conditions. But there are so many good ones. There's I think the 46ers Facebook group, what was the 46ers is now Aspiring High Peaks group.
Yeah,
so they
like
can
that.
still give that advice. Personally, I think these Facebook groups are great places for learning. So many hikers don't know where to start. I do wish people were kinder because everybody was a beginner at some point, and I do see a lot of people who there's some gatekeeping. There's some, well, if you don't know this, you shouldn't head out. And I say always, hey, if you don't have a safe place to ask, how are you ever going to learn? So I'm glad that groups exist. I think with the legal action, it is what it is, but we colloquially call the high peaks the 46 anyway. So I don't think anybody's ever going to stop calling them the 46,
Yeah. Somebody suggested, oh God, what was it? Because there's only 45, 46, right? One of them is below 4,600 feet. It's like Ether or something like that.
Yeah, Esther, I think.
Esther,
yeah.
I've been up there once, like 3 times in my life, and I know that from that 46er page. So these Facebook groups and other things like that are very, very helpful. Like you said, they can teach you a lot in very short amount of time from experienced hikers who just love to post trail conditions and of their day up there. And the Adirondacks are a way different animal than the Catskills. So they do need as much info as they can get.
I agree. And I spend, I would say 60% of my time in the Adirondacks, 40% in the Catskills, and they are definitely a different beast. And the weather is different up there.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
A lot different than the Catskills. The Catskills have such lovely tree coverage,
Yes, right. You don't get above tree line in the Catskills, so you don't get a massive sunburn.
Exactly.
Unless you're hiking in the winter, like what we like to do.
Yep. So. Which my preferred time to hike. I will take the winter over the summer any day.
Is that because of less people?
Partially less people. It's just I love the snow. I love the snow. I love the winter. I hate sweating. I'm a big if you're out with me hiking in the summer, I am pouring sweat. So I still sweat in the wintertime, but I know how to handle it better.
Yeah, right. Good point. You and my wife would be very good friends because she's the same way.
Yeah.
I don't think she likes hiking in the winter, but she does sweating as she hates sweating. And yeah. So
I mean, the other thing is the winter hiking, to me, it's easier, especially in places like the Adirondacks and the White Mountains, which have so many boulders to walk over and step over. When you add that snow, it's just, you get a nice smooth uphill, less tripping. Sure, you're going to fling some snow from your snowshoes on your butt, but whatever,
Yeah. And that's what I told my wife is I'm like, you got to get out here when there's 3-4 feet of snow and they're covering up everything. And it's basically just a snow highway up to the top. And it's absolutely stunning. And you'll be like, wow, maybe I should hike more in the winter, but we'll see.
You'll get her. You will.
I will. I got to take her up somewhere up in the Sierra Nevadas or something.
Man, that would be a dream. That's awesome.
We do. I do have a plan for that. There's a place I plan to go to up there. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Bear Paw High Sierra Camp. You ever heard of it?
I haven't. No.
So this place is over towards Sequoia National Park,
Okay.
and I think it's like an 11-mile hike up, 3,000 feet of elevation gain. But you hike to one of these places that has like those. It's like the tent. How do you say tent RR?
Oh, yep. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
It's like that, but it's run by the state of California, and they serve you food. They have alcohol. They have a bunch of different things. You have to pay to get up there. You know, it's like it's pretty hefty fee. It's like $300 a night. You can only stay 3 nights.
Woof. Okay. But I bet it's
But
beautiful and just like such a treat. And 3,000 miles over the course of 11 miles, depending on what that looks like in regards to the topo, that's not bad.
yeah, that's what I said. And I was just like, it'll be worth it. You're sitting right on the Continental Divide. So
Yeah.
of this, so one time, maybe I'll get her to do that. Maybe not.
I mean, is this where I can say I grew up in the Austrian Alps, fly over there for like $800 and we've got those huts and they're a lot cheaper and you also get beer and food and it's less than $300 a night. Just saying, just putting
So
it out there.
where is this?
In the Austrian Alps, we have a whole hut to hut system. But it's the same thing. You hike up and you have your meal. And I mean, there's this one that I just love where my parents live. And it's this guy who used to be a Sherpa in Nepal. And he's been the chef at this hut in the mountains for 13 years, I think. And it's actually like, God, I want to say fancy food because like the word is lacking right now, but it's like accessible fancy, but he's won awards. And it's all just at this hut that you have to hike to.
Unbelievable.
Now,
Wow.
you are sharing rooms with other people, so there isn't really privacy, but the food's good, the hiking's good, the views are good, the beer's good.
All right. I am going to type this in and look this up because that is awesome. I've always looked to go to the Austrian Alps or even the Swiss Alps and stuff like that.
Oh man, yeah, I'll send you all this information too.
Please do, because I mean, that would be fantastic. All right, that was a good chat. So welcome everyone to episode 66 of Inside the Line, the Catskills. I have my friend and sponsor here, Molly from Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Welcome to the show, Molly.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I have, been following you for quite some time, and the photos you get, I seriously am blown away. I've never seen photos that almost like make me cry because of how beautiful they are.
Oh,
Like-
that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Like seriously, some of these photos I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. How did she capture this? You know, I used to be like an amateur photographer, and I couldn't even imagine how you do this, or even how you get to where you guys are. I can't wait to hear the stories of how that happens, how these people carry up their goddamn bridal dresses and suits and stuff like that, and they still look like they just came out of the reception hall.
Well, I will tell you all about it.
Well, excellent. I can't wait. So once again, thank you to the monthly supporters, Darren White, Vicky Ferreira, John Kaminsky, Jim C., Michael Bongner, David Mead, Matt Smith, and Sharon Klein. Thank you very much for donating monthly to the show. I really appreciate it. Big thank you to Outdoor Chronicles Photography, I think. I believe it's Molly from Outdoor Chronicles Photography. I don't know her name.
It might be. I heard maybe.
Okay, yeah, she does awesome stuff in adventure elopement, adventure coupled photography. We'll be talking about that tonight. She's all over the place: Catskills, Adirondack, White Mountains, beautiful stuff. Bring up your pets too as well. I think I wish Molly, my dogs, could go up somewhere, but they're number one, too lazy and too fat to get up somewhere. So I'd have you take some photos of that.
Well, we all start somewhere, but I get it. I've got 3 dogs. One of them doesn't hike with me anymore, but I got it.
That's 2 of them that hike with you. So
Yeah. Bring the pets always. All pets welcome.
yes, definitely. And she is also, Molly here is also a licensed guide and officiant for getting married. So she does all of the above. So I will have her links in the show notes definitely tonight. I can't Well, just tonight will be Monday night. But yeah, well, thank you, Molly, once again for supporting the show. I really appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. I believe in everything you do. So it's easy to give to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Also, if you're looking to get camping or hiking backpacking gear, go to Camp Catskill in Tannersville. Awesome place, has all the essentials that you need for hiking and backpacking right in the heart of the Catskills in a very beautiful town. Tannersville is such a beautiful town. So if you need anything, spikes, crampons, snowshoes, shirts, they have memorabilia for the Catskills. Stop at Camp Catskill in Tannersville. Jack Walker, thank you very much for donating 3 coffees. You said dig the show, very informative. Love the guest stories. I love hearing these guest stories, so you're not the only one. So I appreciate it. Molly, I think I saw you having a coffee mug. Are you having coffee this late?
No, I'm a multi beverage person here, so I've got my lemon ginger tea and then I've got a golden ale.
Oh, wow, that's a first. Excellent. I got a simple rum and coke like always because I was flying around today, just once again getting stuff. I just made the podcast an LLC, so I had to go and do 18 different things for that.
Well, congratulations. Then I assume that you will be soon publishing your announcement in the local papers and doing that whole process of the LLC.
Of the great old New York State making us do that for some reason.
I know, for 6 whole weeks. What? Can't we just tell our friends and put it on Facebook? It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, I seriously was just like, my friend did it as well. He's up in the Finger Lakes and he does music stuff. And the funny thing is I just bought like 8 different music things so we could collab and we can do some like metal, because me and him are very big musicians and we both love metal and we both love making music. So, and he was telling me everything you need to do, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? And that was the one thing. He's like, you got to find your local newspaper and another weekly and what, a monthly or something like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be local, but there's a list on the Small Business Association, I think, on New York State Gov site. They've got a list of all of the newspapers and how much it costs. You know, if you're in the capital region, we are the cheapest to publish in. So actually, a lot of people, I know you didn't ask about LLC advice here, but people who create LLCs in the city or Long Island, they'll get PO boxes up in the capital region because it's cheaper to post up here.
Smart.
But people like you and I, we have it cheap because we're upstate. So, it's good.
Exactly. Plus, I'd like to promote it in my local paper, even though nobody reads those sections anyway.
Is it weird that I do? I also really like the crossword in my little local paper with all the coupons and everything. So
Sweet.
there are people who read it.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, I was kind of hoping I could make my own thing of like, you had to make it certain wording.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping like the stupid podcast is creating an LLC. So if you want to fight me in law, go ahead. I got a bunch of people that'll take you down. Thanks.
But unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Unfortunately, New York State has regulations. Oh, well. So have you been on any previous hikes lately?
Yeah, so I've actually been lucky because this last week I went on 2 hikes. They were just little baby hikes, but great. So I was up in the Adirondacks and hiked oh my gosh, now I want to say Pilot Knob, and that's not right. Flume Knob. Hiked Flume Knob on Saturday, and then I also had an elopement, which is what we'll talk about partially on Thursday at Tatterskill Falls. So I was
Beautiful.
lucky. I got 2 hikes this week.
Nice. Oh man, I'm jealous. Jessica, my wife, we just did Panther on Sunday. She just finished her 4th requirement of the winter list.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's not a big winter fan, as I've said before. But she handled this one like a boss. And, we were so this was their 3rd attempt. The first time it was really cold and I don't think she was layered up as good as she should have been. So once she gets cold, she gets really, really crabby and stuff like that. And we went to Giant Ledge and I'm just like, listen, let's bail out right now. I don't want you to complete this. The second hike was absolutely horrendous. We arrive at the trailhead. We're starting to get stuff on. and all of a sudden it starts pouring rain. And
Oof.
this is wintertime, so there's at least a foot and a half of snow on the trail. So we start and we get to like the register box, and it has all that massive slush that's just going everywhere. And our feet are cold within like 5 minutes. And I'm just like, nope, I'm not going to deal with this crap. I mean, I mean, being me with all the hikes I've done, I probably should have like put the plastic bags over our feet and, kept our feet protected, but I just didn't think about that at the time. So we went back down and we enjoyed Margaretville. So we just went around and shopped there. But she did her winter hike. We had to use spikes going down Giant Ledge, and then we took them off in the call, which is really weird. Usually the call is really bad.
Yeah. With
Yeah,
all
and
that
then
like shade there.
yeah, and then 3/4 of the way up, we had to put the spikes back on for Panther, and we almost had the top to ourselves. We had a couple people there, but we didn't enjoy it that much because there was a lot of wind and it was cold. But
I mean, it sounds awesome despite the wind and the cold. It sounds like the perfect thing for Jessica to do because it wasn't snowy, right? It's just a little bit of ice. And of course, by the time this podcast comes out, the conditions are going to be totally different. So
exactly. So, it's just, and the funny thing is I've seen reports from like yesterday when it was raining here in Oneonta, or yeah, well, no, it was actually very sunny and then it started to rain. There was snow up in the Catskills. So I'm just like, and I should have taken advantage of that. I should have went hiking yesterday, but I slept in and I cleaned the house and I did all my business stuff for the podcast. So
you know what? That's just as worthwhile. And actually, I really like that you just talked about it being 3 hikes for Jessica to get up Panther. Number one, it's never a bad idea to turn around. If it's just not right, if you're not feeling it, if your brain's not in it, it's better to get turned around. And also, Giant Ledge, still a win. Turning around at Giant Ledge for that first one, that's still awesome. So
we sounded like we looked like tourists, going to the Giant Ledge and stuff. And it was funny. It was just, I understand, I understand bailing, and just like, I didn't want her, she wasn't in the right mood. I didn't want her to suffer. And I'm just like, listen, this is not worth it. There's other times the mountain's still going to be there. So there's not going to be another meteor strike for 380 million years. So
exactly, might as well go down. But now you guys got it done, and she's got her 4th, you said. That's awesome.
yep, she's got 12 more left to finish the whole 3,500. So
Awesome.
now it's the brutal beatdowns of Big Indian and Fur and Wittenberg and Cornell, Lone and Rocky. So she's got.
Oh, but Wittenberg is so nice.
I've told her this. I've told her, I'm like, Wittenberg is a brutal, but it's a fun climb, and it's one you will never forget.
Yeah.
So we'll have to make it a special day. Yeah. So Catskill News, once again, Molly and I are support volunteering. Just I'll post links. I know that I just got an email. I gotta check that out from my trail supervisor. Something about learning how to be a what they call a sawyer. So to be a chainsaw certified person for cutting wood and stuff like that in the backcountry. So it's actually pretty freaking neat. I am thinking about it, but then they said you have to bring your own chainsaw. So that means I got to buy my own chainsaw that I'll never use in my 3/4 of an acre house. So I don't think so. But there's that. See if there's any openings available for the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference volunteering. Catskill 3,500, we're probably going to be posting Trailhead Stewards in a little bit, so that's exciting. Yeah, volunteer. Also, there's a gotta look this up again. The Plattkill Mountain Bike Race. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. No.
So I seriously just heard of this. Well, I think I've heard of it before, but I didn't know it was still going on. And have you ever driven or even walked up and down the Plattkill road?
I have. Yeah, and I know they do a foot race many years ago, but now I'm looking it up. I'm like, ooh, Blackhill mountain bike. I want to look this up.
It's the craziness is how, I'm pretty sure I heard my friend saying this was back in the 90s when they started doing this, and it was only like 5 or 6 people, and it was brutal. He said it was like the most craziest crap they've ever dealt with on the East Coast. that everybody, like three-quarters of the people that did it would bail because it was just so steep and so treacherous that they're just like, man, this is horrible. Yeah, since 1993.
I'm looking,
Um,
there's pictures online and I'm like, this looks intense.
yeah, I don't know why that looks like, but yeah. Um, I don't know that maybe that's not the one. Yeah, that's Plaquemine Mountain. Uh, that's a whole different thing. I'm thinking of maybe I'm not thinking of the right one, but maybe Plaquemine Mountain is the ski resort. So I might have had it wrong, but I know that you're right. There's a foot race located on the Plaquemine Road. So this might be the Plaquemine Mountain bike race over on the Plaquemine Ski Center. So my bad of getting that wrong. I got to research a little bit more.
People can also Google.
Yes, exactly. I'll post a link. Just look at the links. All right, Molly. So how about a little Catskill Mountain history?
Oh, it's my favorite part. I think that was the first thing I ever wrote to you over Instagram, was that the history is my favorite thing about this this podcast.
I remember that. Trust me. I love the history. It is crazy stuff. And as you know, you and I have been talking. I've been fixated on the reservoirs and the water supply going to New York City for the past like month and a half. I must have purchased in the past probably month about 6 books about this. And one of them is an old book that I found. Luckily, I got from a friend of mine that's from 1936.
Ooh, wow. That's awesome.
Originally published 1936, and it's from the New York Board of Water Supply.
That's awesome. That's really amazing.
Exactly. And I was just like, this, it's just fascinating what they did up there, the amount of engineering that they had in the 1900s, early 1900s, is just absolutely fascinating. And to read about this and to learn about this, it just blows my mind of what they did back then would take us a quarter of what we would do now, because we'd have all machines doing it. And, you know, I read somewhere in a book that there was over 4,000 people working on this reservoir and the Catskill Aqueduct, and only 300 people died. That's what they said. Only 300 people. I'm like, that's a lot of
Only
people.
300 people. Okay, you're ramping up. Now I really have to hear where we're about to go, what we're learning today.
I mean, that's. I don't think that has to do with tonight, but
Just in general.
That was where I heard of, just in general, only 300 people. That's what they said in the book. Only 300 people. I'm like,
I know that's a lot of people.
Exactly. I was just like, I wouldn't say only, 4,000 people. I mean, 300 is a small number, but still, it's 300
but
people.
For back then, when you're thinking about it and you're like, ooh, a lot of people died early.
Yeah.
Guess this was a dangerous job. But
it was seriously dangerous. So this is from the New York Board of Water Supply. It was written in 1917. So just remember, when I'm reading this, a lot of this is past tense, and they'll say as of created or by then, and that's 1917. So, and I've done some math on some certain areas that we're going to talk about, which is pretty crazy. So this is, of course, about the Great Catskill Aqueduct. One of the great advantages of the new supply of water from the Catskill Mountains is that of the reservoirs in the mountains are at such elevations that the water can flow by gravity from the city to be delivered with its limits to the street mains at such pressures that it will rise to heights necessary for service in practically all parts of the city and in buildings of all reasonable heights without any pumping at all. The pumping rendered unnecessary by this high gravity pressure of the Catskill water has cost the city and the property owners large sums of money. Of course, this cost cannot be exactly slated, but it has been roughly estimated for recent years at $2 million per year. Not only is this expense saved, but tens of thousands of tons of coal, which was back in 1917, we're talking about, they're still burning coal. So that's what I thought, is required each year, can be conserved for other purposes and mechanics needed in pumping plants liberated for employment elsewhere. Such small amounts of power are needed for operating aqueduct equipment and lighting some of the structures is either generated by the fall of water drawn from the reservoir into the aqueduct, as at the Ashokan Reservoir or obtained from the Electric Power Company exchange for the use of portions of the aqueduct lands for part of the aqueduct south of Putnam County. A gravity system requiring a few men for its operation, and a large majority of them unskilled, is but little affected by the rise of wages in comparison with works employing large numbers of mechanics. The aqueduct is capable of delivering 550 million gallons of water per day in New York City. Now remember, this was 2000 or this was 1917. So 550 million gallons water per day in 1917. It's probably either doubled or tripled by then, because the population in 1917 was, I'm thinking in the high millions, where we have close to, I don't know, 50 million or 70 million, I'm pretty sure. So that was crazy. So then I see the cost of what this operation was. So for surveys, real estate, construction, engineering, and general supervision, and all other items except interest on the bonds, the total cost of the completed Catskill system was about $177 million in 2000 or 1917. I don't know why I keep saying that. And $22 million were for the Schoharie Reservoir. In October 1917, $139 million has been spent. Today, that would have cost $4 billion to make.
Well,
So
that's insane.
I had to like do all that cost comparison of inflation plus 1917 and 2023. I was just like $4 billion, because yeah, exactly. And probably, you know, just to be serious, is that the manpower would have been cut by like, you know, 75%, because we would all have machines now. And I don't know if the engineering in this was absolutely insane in the Catskill Aqueduct. I'll have to post pictures one time. It's tough to post pictures because the books have full pages, so you'd have to zoom in with everything. Instagram and Facebook doesn't let you zoom in well. But seeing some of the stuff that they created back in 1917 that is still going to this day is absolutely insane. So also there's comparisons as well. The magnitude of New York's new waterworks and of the problem supplying the metropolis with water will be more comprehensible with a few comparisons. To state the growth in population and bare figures suggest but little. Instead of maybe written each year, the New York adds people enough to make an Atlanta, a Hartford, a Memphis, or a New Haven. Every 3 years, a Buffalo, a Cincinnati, or San Francisco, and in 4 years, a Baltimore or a Pittsburgh are enough to populate the state of Rhode Island. So from the beginning of the official steps toward the additional water supply to the completion of the first installment of the Catskill Mountain system, the increase in New York's population is more than present of the population of Chicago, or as much of the combined populations of Philadelphia and Detroit. Ashokan Reservoir can hold nearly as much water as 10 reservoirs of the Croton system and the Kosciuszko Reservoir combined, which are two reservoirs located up in Orange County that first started out as the reservoirs for New York City, and they realized that they couldn't be used as good as the Ashokan and stuff like that. They needed more, definitely, because that's a growing population. All the Catskill reservoirs together hold nearly twice as much as 10 Croton reservoirs. Their contents would fill the North River from Battery to Hastings. Also, cool thing that I found, once again, Molly, I went deep into this stuff. It was crazy. So the depth of what it was for the Catskill Aqueduct, the cut and cover aqueduct and the tunnels are more big than enough for railroad trains to pass through them with ease. Catskill Aqueduct is twice as long as two Croton aqueducts put end to end. The water which the Catskill Aqueduct can carry would be waist deep between buildings in Fifth Avenue's fashionable shopping districts, if flowing at a comfortable walking speed, of course. The water is also used by New York City each day, weighs about 8 times as much as the population. Freaking insane. The two deepest shafts of the city tunnel of the Catskill Aqueduct, one corner at Clinton and South Streets and the other at the corner of Delancey and Elder Streets, Manhattan, are each as deep as the tower of the Woolworth Building is high. I don't know what the Woolworth Building is, but I'll have to figure that out. I should have probably included that. If the Eiffel,
it's okay.
Right? We're not city people. Maybe some people in the city will understand that, but
yeah, they'll know.
If the Eiffel Tower could be stood within its foundations of the Hudson River Tunnel, its top would not appear above the river surface. Or if the Woodworth building, I don't know, Woolworth buildings would stood atop of the other, the lower one having its foundations the Hudson River Tunnel. The top of the upper one would just reach the level of which the water flows away to the mountain at the east bank of the Hudson after rising in the shafts from the tunnel beneath the river. Now, I was checking that out. The Catskill Aqueduct flows 1,000 feet below the Hudson River and then back up to the Croton Dam. Once again, 1917.
I mean, that's the thing that's insane about it. I think about, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just thinking 1917, that's before major construction equipment. I think tractors were maybe around, but I bet there was still like a lot of actual horse powered, human powered. I'm not sure what kind of equipment. Some was obviously around because they talk about the coal, but 1917, 106 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And just to think, when did the first car come out? 1908, I'm thinking.
Sure.
So the first vehicles came out in 1908. This is just a guess, so please don't criticize me. I'm looking it up. I'm not 1886 Carlsbad, but 1901 the Oldsmobile was coming out. So 1901. This is barely when they were trusting the cars, let alone EVs this year. This time they were just like, screw EVs. So they were probably like, screw cars, let's keep with the horses. Having the amazing engineering of making that aqueduct that big to hold a train easily to go through, to go underneath the Hudson River, is just blows my mind.
Yeah, the engineering involved with that, that's just why. I mean, it just makes me incredibly admirable of the people involved with that.
Exactly. And what stinks is, this is 2023, trying to get a hold of someone who is involved in that, of course, is almost near impossible. It's definitely near impossible because they're over 100 years old easily. But I'm trying to get a hold of people who've written about it, and for some reason they don't want to chat about it. I don't understand.
I don't know. I think it's interesting.
I think it's absolutely phenomenal to have a passion about this stuff, because I got to admit, what happened with the reservoirs is just blows my mind of what they did up here. Of course, it's really sucks with the towns and stuff like that, but the engineering of 1917. Wow.
It's fascinating. I mean, you can see how living up here, right? The upsetness that people from upstate have with people in the city when we talk about tax dollars. It goes back to that history of people in these towns saying, we're doing this for the people in the city. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. Here are these huge feats. There was also all this economic activity. So yes, people got displaced. That's terrible. Whole towns died. That's terrible. But also on a huge influence for a very large portion of the population. There's fresh water, fresh, clean water that wasn't possible to get in the city beforehand. I mean, so with everything in life, good, bad, but it is insane and fascinating. And as same with you, I am fascinated by the ingenuity behind it all.
Yeah, I agree. And I just keep reading more and more. And what sucks is I go to bed at 9:00 at night. It takes me a while to sleep, and then I got to wake up at 3:45 in the morning. But when I freaking read those books, I'm just sitting there reading. I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen next? It sucks.
And also you wonder, what is the next of tomorrow, right? What is it that we're doing right now that is in 100 years, people are going to be looking back and being like, oh my God, that podcast. They were talking about this.
It's just, once again, 1917, that thing's still going strong. The Catskill Aqueduct has barely been enhanced, and it's only been tidied up a little bit. So, like you said, 106 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, all right. So enough with Catskill Mountain history. Jesus, went on a little bit too much about that. So let's get to the guest of the night, Molly from Outdoor Chronicles Photography.
Let's go.
Molly is, of course, as you can see, a professional photographer. I'm going to ask her tonight for like 3 or 4 photos of her best stuff, so I can post them throughout the week and see what you guys can see that I see. It's just absolutely phenomenal. So, Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I can't wait to hear of your stories. Just like I've always wondered when people post these photos or I see these photos on Instagram, how the hell did this happen? Like,
Well, and
how
I
the
think
hell?
the answer is there's so many different ways for it to happen, but I am happy to give an insight into how I work, which I like to think is a little bit different. So,
Excellent. So, Molly, how about you give us a little background about yourself?
cool. So, I'm going to stick strictly to my hiking and photography background because, as with most people these days, we've got lots of different things where we come from. But for me, when it comes to nature and the outdoors, it's just always where I felt safe. I grew up, I alluded to this earlier. While my mother's American, my father's German, and my grandparents were in Austria. So we did a lot of moving back and forth over the years. You know, we'd spend a couple of years over there, a couple of years over here. And when we were there, I was in the Alps. So starting at, I don't know, from the moment I walked to, I don't know at what age you normally walk, but as soon as I'm sure it was safe for me to walk, I was in the mountains, with my family. And later on, if I was in the States, nature was where I escaped to when I was, a moody teenager, as I'm sure we all were once upon a time. And, and so I just grew up in the mountains. So over the years, I went to college back and forth, always found myself back. So now here I'm settled here where I can be in between the Catskills and the Adirondacks, hike whenever I want. When it comes to photography, it's actually not my first career. So I spent 20 years in theater, stage manager, running other organizations, and photography was something I did on the side, starting in 2010. I was a sports photographer for a local university when I lived in Philadelphia, make some extra cash on the side,
Wow.
And in 2015, I photographed my first elopement. But this was all before Outdoor Chronicles. This was just me, Molly Matilda Floyd Hennighausen photography,
Wow.
I wasn't even an LLC. I was just a sole proprietor. So speaking of LLCs earlier.
Yeah.
So when I got married in 2019, me and my husband, we were doing things that we thought we were supposed to do, doing the research on, the venue, the dress, the catering. And we're like, this is no fun.
Right.
This is no fun whatsoever. And we were just, I would say he was more excited than I was. I was absolutely miserable. I was like, I hate this. I don't like being the center of attention. It sounds like so much money to spend on a day that I don't want, right? I wanted to be married, but we'd gotten engaged on the mountains. We spent every weekend in the mountains, and it just felt so unnatural to be trapped in a room with artificial lighting with a bunch of people around us. And that's kind of where Outdoor Chronicles photography was born from, was me realizing I'm miserable doing this. There must be other people who feel the same way. And so when I started my business, it was, I think I filed the LLC 2019, could have been early 2020, I'm not sure. I was like, I'm rebranding everything I've ever done in photography. And I was like, I'm going to create a place for people to feel safe. Safety is a big thing in what they want. I wanted to empower couples to do what they wanted to do. I wanted to say, but when you get engaged, let's pause before you start planning a wedding. Take a second and think about what you actually want. Don't just start going down the checklist.
Yeah.
So whether that means getting married in the mountains or not, I want couples to just stop and say, hey, what do I want? What's true to us? So, but where Outdoor Chronicles photography went is creating safe places for people to exchange their vows. It's very simple. Going a bit further, of course, my niche is taking people on adventures. I'm a licensed hiking guide. I'm a wilderness first responder. I'm going to make sure that you've got your gear, that you are both physically safe and emotionally safe to say your vows. But that's how, so that's now, oh God, 4 years ago of doing adventure elopements, and mostly just adventure elopements. Sometimes some weddings, but with an adventurous, maybe a day before, day after.
Wow. Unbelievable. So what came first? Do you photography, and then did you do like wilderness first responder, and then like an officiant for getting married, or was it like all?
So photography's been since 2010. So that was obviously the longest. I became an officiant in 2020 because most people who, join me on elopements, like, again, they also don't want people staring at them. Some
Yep.
people bring a guest or two, but for most people, it's just the two of them. And it's most authentic that I believe it's your vows that make you married. It's not somebody deciding that, like, so I became an officiant because I was like, here's how to make it as simple as possible for the couples that I work with, who tend to be people who just want to get outside and get married
Nice. Wow.
and have spectacularly beautiful photos of it. Because you can get married outside and not have photos, but I provide some awesome photos.
Right. And I agree with you with being simple with your marriage. My wife and I, we were going crazy over that stuff, and then we're like, you know what, screw this. Let's, have it at a local park, pay $50. Whoever wants to come can come. All our friends could be there. We don't need to hire too many people. My cousin cooked. Everybody brought their own dish. It was a fantastic time. We had the weirdest day. So not to break off from the spotlight of you, but
No, I want to hear it.
so when we got married the night before, my friend and I slept outside of our marriage spot. And during it was like 3 o'clock, all of a sudden we had everything set up. I don't know why we set up the day before, but all I hear is just stuff starting to fly over on the tables, little cups, the tables and stuff like that. So I get out and there's like massive wind gust, and I'm just like, oh man, this is not fun. So I was up since 3 o'clock in the morning, and I guess my nephew, who was like 13, 14 at the time, Jessica, comes rolling in with a coffee and everything, and he's just like, yeah, he's really pissed off. He's been having to clean this up for hours. So all of a sudden we're sitting there, and everybody, this was 2012, so everybody has one of the big, huge Android smartphones. Everybody starts getting dings on their phones, and it says winter warning or weather warning, tornado watch in effect. We're all like, sweet. And, I'm sitting there and we see the clouds in the back, and I'm waiting for Jessica to come in. I'm like, any freaking time now, you can show up and we can get this over with. And, during the time, it just starts, wind starts coming in, and then all of a sudden we get married, and we're getting ready to eat, and all of a sudden rain comes in, and we're in these airport bunkers, and it comes sideways. Everything gets blown over. And it's just like, we're just all laughing, and we're just like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Just,
Hey, rain's good luck on a wedding day. Although when it gets into danger, we'll talk about that later. But
exactly.
But I think it's great that you did do things your own way. I mean, that's the part that I miss, right? I said all the things that made me miserable about planning a wedding. We ended up doing our own elopement, right? In the Alps, in the mountains, and did it our way. And we ended up having, before we went and eloped ourselves, we had all our friends come over for a picnic in our backyard, and but I fully believe, like you did, like I did, like so many people out there can just take a step and figure out what you actually want from your wedding day experience, because it's different than your marriage.
Right. Exactly. And you know what? Another thing we were thinking of, we wanted to spend money to go on our, what's it called?
Honeymoon?
Honeymoon. Yeah. We wanted to spend some big money going on our honeymoon instead of our wedding. One day compared to 7 days. Come on.
100%. Or
Yeah.
I have a lot of couples where they get married as part of their honeymoon. So they'll be like, yeah, we're doing a 10-day thing and we're getting married in the middle of it. So,
yeah, right.
But I agree. There's how you use your money should reflect your values on your wedding day.
Exactly. So Molly, with you being the photographer you are, where have you hiked? The Catskills, Adirondacks, Whites? Like, name some of your favorite places in each area.
Ooh, okay. So this is fun. Okay, so Catskills, I'll start there because this is a Catskills podcast. My favorite hike in the Catskills, hands down, is doing the Black Dome, Blackhead, Thomas Cole as a traverse.
Nice.
Granted, I've never done it as a loop, but as a traverse, it is one of my favorites. Because you get a little bit of every type of scenery, but especially ending up there. I mean, it's just a fun hike, right? You get the scrambles, you get the like soft incline, you get the trees, you get the rocky outcropping. I mean, it's just fun.
I agree.
For the Adirondacks, see, like I don't like having to choose favorites, but if I'm going to, Adirondacks, I mean, everybody says right now Algonquin. I think that's fair. For me, if I'm going high peaks, I'm saying Colden is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. But I actually prefer a lot of the 29ers. There's the list of the 46, and then the 29ers are those that are shorter, and they're less crowded. And I mean, I could list off 5 or 6, but I think that whole list is just fantastic.
That's like includes like Rooster Combe and Mount Vancouver and stuff.
Yeah, speaking of Rooster Cove, that is up there. That is a favorite. I really can't choose favorites, but Rooster Cove I hiked a couple months ago in the fall. It was just lovely. If you're pretty new to hiking, then I recommend Mount Van Ho. They've got a really lovely new trail. I think it's called the East Trail. It's very gradual. It's like 3 miles, and you just come up to this ledge. So for all skill levels, there's a bunch of stuff. You know, Cobble Lookout, if you're like super, super new, I go Cobble Lookout, Mount Van Ho, hike a couple in between on the 29ers and end up at Colden, and then you'll have hiked my favorites in the Adirondacks.
Nice,
So,
nice.
White Mountains. See, I'm just going through the list like you told me to. White Mountains, Moosilauke. Moosilauke is amazing. As I mentioned already, I love winter hiking. So Moosilauke for me was my first winter hike in the White Mountains. Gosh, I want to say 2015. Wow. I want to say, and it just like, so there might be some nostalgia there for that being my first white, but it's just lovely. Pierce is great. And then of course, doing the Franconia Ridge is magical. So
you guys are like, so many people are like kicking my ass in the 46ers and the 48ers, man. I'm kind of jealous.
It's interesting because I have a friend that I hike with, and she's like, we're going to get your 46 done. And I'm like, but why? Like, I have so many things to hike. So I'm not really a list hiker, and I am known to hike the same thing over and over again. But I'm gonna say, Stash, for my favorite hikes, this is where it goes to where I grew up. It's the Austrian Alps. They're my favorites. There's a mountain that
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, there's a mountain I've hiked probably over 100 times, and it's the one that me and my husband got married on. Because you can also take a car to the top, so his parents could easily come up, but not a car. What's it called? A train car, like that type of thing. But yeah, I've hiked that mountain over 100 times, and it is by far my favorite mountain in the world.
You'll have to list that on your photography page. Post that picture tomorrow.
Will do.
Please. So Outdoor Chronicles photography, you basically like talked about how that came about, but you know, what pursued you to get into that passion a little bit more, like further and further, you know, being a photographer, an amateur photographer. I started off with astrophotography, and, you know, I'm just like, oh man, I got to keep going. And all of a sudden, you know, I lost interest, but you seem to be gaining more and more interest because your photos keep getting better and better. So how did that come about?
Well, first I've got to say, astral photography, you decided to jump into the deep end, didn't you?
It was horrible. Let me go out in the middle of nowhere and test 200 times of what's the best setting.
Yeah, and you're like, how long should the shutter speed be? 8 seconds versus 10 seconds? Oh, with 12 seconds, there's a little bit of a blur.
Yep, ISO at 5200 or ISO at 2400, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so you did not do anything on easy mode, I see.
Nope.
Yeah, for me, photography was a means to an end for a long time. It was something I was good at, right? So when I talk about starting in sports photography, that was obviously those are skills that I use now, right? The same skills I used photographing people playing field hockey are what I use with people skiing down a mountain. We've got the
Yep.
speed, we've got the unpredictability, you've got to stay on it, right? But when it Outdoor Chronicles specifically, it turned from something I was good at that was a means to an end to something I was really passionate about was wanting to give couples this experience. And for me, a lot of that also had to do with paying attention to the details. So what I mean by that, sports photography, you're capturing a moment that looks really cool that will be on somebody's little player card or be in the newspaper.
Mhm.
With the elopement photography, what I'm doing is telling a story. So I tell people always in their intro emails when I do a consultation, yeah, sure, we're going to get some shots that you're going to hang on your wall and you're going to print them up 3 feet by 2 feet and it's going to be gorgeous. But my ultimate goal is for you to look through your album and relive your day.
Right.
And so for me, that means, yeah, I'm paying attention to the couple and photographing them, but I'm also really making sure like those winter berries that we're passing, I've got those. Or, you saw that witch's butter that we passed on the trail. You didn't know what that was, but I knew what witch's butter is because it's my favorite fungi ever. And then I get to tell you about it, and then my photograph is going to be in your album. So I would say like Outdoor Chronicles, that's where it comes from, right? Chronicles is telling that story. We happen to be outdoors because me and you and the people I'm photographing, we feel best outside. And I want to be very clear. It's not about expertise outside. It's not about you being the fastest hiker and being a trail runner and being the baddest ass outdoor person there ever was, right? I have a lot of couples who love being outside, and it goes back to what you were saying at the very beginning of this podcast, learning how to be outside. They love to be outside, but maybe they've never actually been in the backcountry, but they know they want to be in the backcountry.
Yeah.
So it's also bringing out them. That's part of their story. On their wedding day, they're doing something new, right? Together. I don't know if that made sense or was concise enough.
100% made sense. Capturing the moments, and like you said, telling the story and having that thought, I'd be like, oh, like this is when we first started up, it was cloudy. And then, you're taking pictures of, like you said, the berries and the fungi.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at the top, they get to a beautiful open summit that has sunshine and stuff like that. The smiles just keep getting bigger and bigger. And
yeah, and it's getting the hike because that's part of it, right? And sometimes we're hiking 11, 13 miles round trip, sometimes or more, right? I've had a couple backpacking elopements, and sometimes it's 3 to 5 miles, right? And that's where the hiking guide portion of what I do, that ethical responsibility too, is when you start working with me, I get to know you very well because you're going to have to tell me your health concerns, for example. You're telling me your health concerns. You're telling me what you want from this most intimate experience that you're having. So you really get to know each other really well. But that's what makes it such a wonderful experience, is because I don't want anything wrong to happen on your wedding day, right?
Yeah.
Like I want you to have the best day ever. And again, tell that story. So
that's I kind of wish I knew about this earlier and have that story.
There wasn't really a thing. I think or at least that's what I didn't see. There was really this thing that existed, which is now it exists. Now there's a lot more people doing this type of work, which is awesome. I will say safety is a very important thing. So I hope everybody who does do this work is safe, both for them, the photographer, but also for their couples.
Yeah. Let's stop talking about that to give away your secrets. All right.
Yeah.
So awesome. So with you've got hiking stories galore. Where's the craziest place you have hiked for like photographs, not just photographs, but like your adventure with Molten and stuff like that? One of the most memorable, probably.
Okay, so we're gonna, because crazy is all relative, right?
Oh yeah, crazy, yeah.
So I would say I like rephrasing it as most memorable. I had an all-day elopement where they really wanted to get out into, like, have nobody around. So a lot of what I do is I scout out these locations, right? We don't always go to the popular because you want some quiet. So I found them this beautiful, stunning waterfall swimming hole, just, I don't know, I want to say 6-7 miles into the backcountry in the Adirondacks. And so we started our day off super early, hiked out there. They got ready there. They went swimming. That was awesome. Later on, paddled across a lake and did a hike. You know, other people, like I said, I've done backpacking elopements in the White Mountains. So some people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy to get up at 1:30 in the morning and go hiking." And so yeah, but memorable, I would say that one with the waterfall, just because it wasn't about this stunning view. It was so meaningful for them to have water and privacy. Like, it was very, like, emotional. I don't know if that's the right word, you know. And they were just so into each other, and we spent hours there. And it's not a photo. It doesn't feel like a photo shoot, but they were just so into each other. And I'm just documenting what happens in front of me, and also giving time for them to have their own moments. So.
Wow. So, like, I'm curious. Have you ever had like an elopement at Rainbow Falls in the Adirondacks?
No, I have not. And I'll tell you exactly why, too.
Wow.
So I really pride myself on giving people unique experiences. People see Rainbow Falls, they see Indian Head, and they say, "Oh, I want that." Now, if they really want that, or they see Whiteface, if they really want that, we'll talk about why. But I also might not be the photographer for them.
Interesting.
And I mean that because, is that experience because they saw it on Instagram? You know?
That's why I asked that.
Is there a location that, or is it that location really speaks? If it really speaks to them and they're like, "Hey, we grew up in this area. We've been hiking to Rainbow Falls for ages. We've been going to Indian Head for ages. We've been going to Whiteface for ages." You know? If there's a meaning, totally open to photographing that. But if it's just because you want those Instagram photos, I bet you I'm probably going to say no, because I want to work with the couples who want to say, "This is the type of scenery I feel good in. This is the type of experience I want to have." And then I go and find that for them and present it. And I've had couples, they say, "Listen, I know I want to be at this point, but I want the actual place for our vows to be a surprise." And that's been really fun. And I've had that happen twice. And it's been super fun. Also, terrifying, because you're like, "Oh my gosh, have I chosen a good enough place?" You know? But in most cases, they were like, "Wow, stunning, amazing." And you know, you sit down, you change, you have a picnic, you know? So yeah.
Wow. That is actually phenomenal. So once again, you're explaining that you want to have the experience for these people and not just the photos.
Yeah, I would say it's more experience than it is. I mean, the photos happen. The photos happen no matter what. They're going to be amazing. But I want people's experience when they get married to just be, can I curse, right? Goddamn special.
That's not even, this is explicit, so you can say whatever the hell you want. I tell I tell people all the time, I'm like, "You're getting yourself into this podcast, and you should by now 65 episodes know what you're getting yourself into." So wow, that's incredible. That once again brings a big smile to my face, because instead of just, you know, like you said, for the Instagram or something like that, it's for the whole experience, the capturing not just the one moment, but the very many moments.
Exactly. Again, it goes back to telling that story.
Right. So have you had any crazy couples?
Again, I'll go like, what is crazy to some people is not crazy other. My favorite couples are the couple that I photographed on Thursday. Their elopement wasn't particularly crazy in sort of way, but like, they had just gotten back from backpacking in Nepal, you know?
Wow.
So like, you guys seem great. So I would say, like, you know, crazy couples. I have couples that ski. I have couples that hike. I think other people think people like you and I are crazy, and that's why we would get along with these couples that work with me, right? We're all crazy if we're outdoors hiking and sweating on purpose.
So now, anybody that like are just like have some weird request for photos, like
Hmm.
I don't know, like some daring photos, maybe? Like you were just like, oh, okay, no, we're not gonna do that crap.
No, I mean, your experience is your experience. So what happens is up to you. I do very little posing. So what you see is what you get. And I will say, if you don't want your elopement to feel like a photo shoot, make your elopement super long. If it feels like a photo shoot, it's because we're trying to cram everything into 1 or 2 hours. Versus if you have an 8 to 10 hour time together, you're going to get those stunning, like Instagram worthy shots
Yeah,
just
right.
because, and they won't feel like a photo shoot. But I have had couples who, have made out pretty intensively, and I know when to step away and give a little privacy.
And you're sitting there holding the camera behind you.
You know what? I know when to step away. I think that's a mad. We're not going to be like, I'm not going to take 5 million photos, but if what your experience is genuine, I'm there to capture it.
Genuine is a beautiful word.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like I'm trying to think of like some other thoughts of like craziest couples. Like any couples that like have hiked there and back in just their gown and their suit.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely. But as you just mentioned, craziest couple, what actually just came to me. So yes, there is hiking, and that'll depend on the hike. So I've got a whole guide that I work with, and again, I've been in the mountains, so it'll depend on what their clothes are like. I will say, masculine folks have actually more trouble with their clothes than people wearing dresses because dress pants, ooh, they like to split. And I'm sure you
Oh,
know this.
yeah,
And shoes that you wear have zero tread on them.
yeah.
So I will say people who are wearing more masculine clothes, like they're the ones that I'm actually coaching more into what to wear. A dress, if it's strapless, you don't want to wear it. But if your hike is, let's say, 2 miles, 3 miles, conditions are pretty easy, it's a pretty steady, and it's not too hot, you can hike in it. Sometimes what I'll recommend is let's hike up in your normal clothes, change up top, and hike down in your
Yep.
clothes because that can be a little bit easier. Of course, if it's a longer adventure, then I recommend, hey, wear what's comfortable. Definitely wear the same hiking boots you always wear. We don't want any blisters. And we make time at top. At the top, we make time to sit, to hang everything up, to just like get less red
Yeah.
before putting everything on. And you can still have a first look if you want, but it's equally as beautiful if you're getting ready together. But I did want to say craziest couples. You made me think about one of my very first couples in 2020 who told me they were hikers. And this was before I was officially a licensed guide. And I also had a lot to learn. We learned from the things that we didn't ask before, right? So I trusted them when they told me their experience and what they wanted. They told me 5-7 miles. Oh, we're runners. Oh, we're great at this. We're great at that. It came to the day and it turned out they'd never actually been in the mountains.
Mm.
And so when I think about craziest couples, I actually think of them now because their expectations were so out of line with their experience. So I spent a lot of time just trying to adapt for them.
Yeah, kind of like coaching them, right?
Exactly. Because as you know, running on flat concrete is much different than hiking up a mountain.
Oh, yeah, I love when people like I know it sounds a little snobby, but I love when people are like that. Like, oh yeah, I could hike this mountain. You take them up a mountain, they're just like, Jesus, what is going on here? I'm like, exactly. Shut up.
Yep. And then you add on the weight on your back, right?
Yep.
You're carrying weight.
And then they're like, that's the funny thing is they're like, why am I carrying so much? Well, I mean, you're running for 33 minutes, but you're hiking for 4 hours. So you
Yeah.
do the math. So awesome. That's funny. So, like, have you ever had any crazy like conditions to where like, I don't know if you've ever hiked in the winter. Have somebody ever hiked in the winter?
Yeah. Ooh, this question I'm
Wicked.
super excited about because I actually have concrete answers for you. So a big thing you get when you book with me is time. It's outdoor elopements. You're booking me anywhere from 4 months to a year in advance. We don't know what the weather's going to be like on that preferred date. So what I do it's just a necessity is I keep the days around your elopement open, right? They're for you if we need to move. Now we're not going to move if it's just like a little bit of rain and it's still safe, but like, hey, guess what? Mudslides happen. So a couple years ago, we had a big storm and there are mudslides. So I had to move, a location of the elopement and the date of the elopement because of that. Obviously, with the hurricanes, I mean, just this fall, I've had actually a lot of moves this fall. I would say 25 to 50% of my elopements, 50 might be a bit high, but 25 to 50 have some sort of thing that changes, whether it's the exact location, time of day, or actually moving to a different day due to trail conditions or weather.
Wow.
So yeah, in November we had that big hurricane that came through and I had a Catskills elopement. So rather than doing our evening centric elopement, right, we just moved to 6 a.m. So,
Wow.
it mostly beat the rain. We had an hour of pouring rain, but at that point, like it's embrace the rain.
Exactly. Catch those moments of where everybody's like just acting crazy because it's happening.
Exactly. But yeah, the conditions can get crazy. And that's again where I think about, safety in the Catskills, safety in the Adirondack, safety in the White Mountains. If working with somebody who knows that and who's out in the mountains all the time and knows how things have changed is so important. I just finished up my avalanche safety course and that's more of an issue each year because of our warming, right? The way that our ice goes. So I think conditions will continue to get crazier. I like to move elopements when possible to have the safest conditions possible. Because again, safety comes first.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Any times where you've had to, this is preferably in the middle of like a hike where you've been like, this, we can't do this. This is either unsafe or it's just the conditions are just going to make this unmemorable. I mean, it's going to make it memorable, but.
Yeah, I've been lucky that hasn't happened. I always pre-hike the hike the day before. So I've even pre-hiked it the morning of in one case. This was back when I put elopements a little bit closer together, but I always hike it the day before. So I know, like I said, I have had to change locations based on things, but never in the middle.
Wow.
Luckily, crossing fingers that I never do have to do that. But I will say I'm a big nerd on weather.
Yeah.
So I hope that there's no sudden weather that happens that I didn't plan for.
Yeah, I agree. That's been also a good guide and preparedness is knowing the weather and knowing your situation and be like, maybe we shouldn't try it this day because there could be like 2 to 3 inches of rain and that might mean horrible conditions.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, there are times where it's okay for me to pre-hike it the week before, let's say the weather is going to be the same and it's going to be dry and there's nothing going to be changing. Okay, I can hike it the week before and be pretty certain it's going to be okay on the day of the elopement. But again, with things being so variable, I usually go the day or day before, or sometimes, like I said, if it's a super short one, the morning of.
Nice. That's crazy. Unbelievable.
Fun for me.
So, we talked about this a little bit before, but what was your most most memorable elopement?
I had a multi-day elopement. I've had a couple multi-day elopements, but I would have to say the one that I just mentioned where it was 2 brides. And while we had chosen part 1 of their hiking adventure, they had one day that was 8 hours. And then the next day they were all involving family to celebrate their elopement. But on their actual elopement day, we had 8 hours, 2 locations. And so we chosen the one and I chose a longer hike. So they thought the first part was kind of the like peak of the experience. But they're also the ones that said, hey, we want you to surprise us with where we're going to do our vows. We don't want to know. And that was just it to have that level of trust from my clients was, I don't take it lightly, and it was beautiful. And then whenever I do a 2-day elopement, I try to edit some sneak peeks for the people who come by the next day, and being able to see them sharing those photos with their family and documenting that part of the experience too was just, it was just such a heartwarming thing to be like, yes, I'm here, and I'm here to provide you with this gift. So
Nice.
it was
Wow.
beautiful.
It's you seem to be very genuine and all about the time and adventure and the moments. It's very rare.
Yeah, and with those two people, right? That's an example of two people who live in the city who love hiking but only get out a couple times a year, right? So again, finding the right hike for them that would be epic, but also not so strenuous that they wouldn't have fun, right? And also, as you know, when we're hiking, it's going to get dark. So it's also guiding them. It was their first time hiking in the dark. And while
nice.
it was a pretty safe path, right? And of course, and I had all the light for them and the headlamps and everything. They were like, oh my God, this is so cool. We're hiking in the dark, right? They were just so jazzed over this new experience.
That's wicked. I love it. So any close calls while out on the trail doing this stuff, or not even on the trail?
Not with my couples, but with other people. So this is where I'm grateful for my training, for that wilderness first responder training, and for that guiding training. Is unfortunately, with more and more people being in the backcountry, prepared or not, more accidents happen. So there have been twice I've had to leave my couples in order to help other people on the trail. So once was this last Thursday. We were at Catterskill Falls, which, by the way, for everybody who's listening, the trail looks like it's fantastic, but once you get close to those falls, it's super icy. Bring your micro spikes. And there were people just with no tread, no equipment, who had somehow found themselves on the other side of the falls with no way to get back. And they told me they had kind of butt slid over there. So I did have to leave my couple for 15, 20 minutes to help get them out and get them safe. And then this fall, there was another situation where it was an intimate wedding. So it was the couple plus 5 members of their family were hiking, and we were in the Catskills, and we came across a family where the son had slipped and fallen and had gotten a huge gash, and they didn't have a first aid kit, and I carry everything on my pack for elopements, probably 40, 50 pounds. So
yeah.
Between camera gear and safety gear, I mean, I'm bringing that tarp with me, and luckily the child was okay, but, spent some time there with the toothbrush, cleaning up the gash and wrapping it and making sure they were okay. So hopefully nothing will ever happen with my couples, but we also do a lot of work to try and get ahead of that. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to run into anything. And I feel like it's our ethical responsibility as people who know the mountains to help people.
Correct. Wow. That's helping others. That's a very good luck. I got to admit, knock on wood. I think this is wood. And this, but yeah, awesome. But
you do search and rescue. So I'm sure that you also feel that responsibility when you're just out normal for fun.
Oh yeah, I carry as much as I can to help as much as I can. This previous hike my wife and I had, I'm like, I go to my wife Jessica, I'm like, lift my pack, and she's like, I don't want to. I'm just like, just lift it. And she's like, it's like 20 times the weight of hers, and she's just like, what do you got in there? I'm like, anything and everything that is needed for safety. And I'm just like, you name it, it's in there. Splint, wrap, gauze pads, tarp, the emergency blanket. I have everything. Extra water, extra spikes. I gave her 2 pairs of spikes, and I had 3 pairs of spikes just in case somebody ran into that problem.
I've just started carrying extra spikes in my pack because I just clip them to the outside. And I think this was actually one of your guests that you had on a couple months ago said that they hit the trail and just fill a whole bag with like bottled water at some of the more popular trails. And so that's something that I want to start doing in the summer, actually, is having just like, I have extra water, but extra like water bottles.
Yeah.
They're plastic, but because that is something we see, and just be like, hey, I have an extra, just kindness, right? Without
Yep.
a lecture, to just be like, here you go.
Yeah, just make sure you leave no trace, bring it home with you, and recycle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great call. So where is your favorite place in the Catskills?
Can I say Thomas Cole Black-Headed Black Dome again?
Oh yeah, you can. I actually maintain the trail from Thomas Cole to Camel's Hump.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Thank you for doing that. I
it's the
appreciate that.
it's the shittiest trail to maintain. Trust me.
Yeah, there's so many good places, but that's a piece. That's a piece that you're doing.
Yeah, hiking 2.5 miles in to start your trail maintenance, and then that area is just full of prickers and big massive ferns and stuff. So it's fun. But I gotta agree with that. That's a hell of a hike up through there.
So what does that look like to maintain the, like, what is it that you do? Do you find a lot of trash, or is it mostly clearing the shrubbery and,
Oh, always
are
clearing the
you
shrubbery.
out there with a handsaw and doing all that stuff?
Machete is what I have. Basically, a massive machete that it looks like I should be Mongolian or something like that. And maybe I should do that sometime as dressing in a Mongolian and go up and just start hacking stuff when people are up there. They'd be like, what the hell?
Be
But
very
that's
confused.
very, very little trash. Very, very, very little trash. The only thing that I usually run into is I don't know if you remember that spot between Thomas Cole and Camel's Hump is the nice, beautiful call.
It is. It's lovely.
Off in the distance is usually a fire ring that I have to, dismantle and try to break up. But other than that, people love that area. It's a tough area, and I get a lot. I have to go at least 4 times, probably within the fall to winter, spring months to clear it out because it's just insane. It's got to be the worst in the Catskills.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
I'm just glad people enjoy it. So don't thank me. I thank for people for still enjoying it and telling me when it's shitty because it gets shitty.
Yeah.
But good. That's an awesome spot. You get Black Dome, the views on both sides go Camp Steel, and then you can go to the one side that looks over to the west.
Yeah, and that sunset is insane from up there.
Yeah, it is definitely. And then when you're over in Black Dome, you can catch the sunrise because you're looking east.
Yeah.
So awesome. Very good call. I agree. Yeah. So we're winding down on everything. Molly, what about some post hike brews and bites? What do you got for me?
Ooh, I just tried the Garden Cafe in Catskill.
Ooh.
Have you been there before yet?
To be honest, I haven't even been to the town of Catskill yet.
Okay, so I hadn't either. This is so naive. I was just because, you drive around Catskill to get to a lot of places. You don't necessarily drive through it. So I was so naive. I didn't think there was anything in the town of Catskill because I thought I was like, oh yeah, I sometimes drive past some houses on the way to Overlook,
Mhm.
or something like that. And it turns out it's a really cute little town. Everybody's going to laugh at me listening to this for not recognizing that. But I just went to the Garden Cafe and it was delicious. It was so good. Really, really well priced as well. Just simple eats.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. My friend lives in Catskill, and I'm on a forum for the Catskill area. And they seem like a smaller Kingston.
Exactly. And it was it was very artsy, which we already knew, but just driving through there was a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
So very naive. I look forward to strolling the streets one day, but whenever I stroll the streets in the Catskills or the Adirondacks, I'm covered in mud and maybe slightly embarrassed.
No reason to be slightly embarrassed and covered in mud. Trust me. That's nothing. It's better to be that and smelly because they're just like, oh, they're going to spend some money here eating some good food.
It's true. We spend good money after a hike.
Food and alcohol. That's what I do.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, excellent. Thank you. So, Molly, thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Your stories were absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the tidbits that you gave me, because this has been so fun.
It has been a phenomenal time. And once again, thank you for supporting this small show that I just do for fun. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you to the monthly supporters. Thank you for the people who have donated some coffees. Really appreciate it. Thank you to Molly and everybody who is donating to the show. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody who's listening. It keeps me going. Trust me. See everybody, like people listening and saying, "Hey, I love the show." It keeps me going. So if you need a sticker, let me know. Molly, I sent you a sticker, right?
You did. You sent me a couple, and I don't have my water bottle right now, but they're right there.
That's okay. Just as long as I sent you one. So, Molly, thank you for joining me tonight. And I hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking memes, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you just keep on living, man. Livin.
Wicked, 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 wicked.